It's time to take your business to the next level, the boss level. These are the premier business owner strategies and successes being utilized by the industry's top talent today. Rock your business like a boss, a VO boss. Now let's welcome your host, Ann Ganguza.
Hey everyone, welcome to the VO Boss Podcast. I'm your host, Ann Ganguza, and today I am excited to start a brand new series with special guest co-host, Erikka J. Woohoo! Hey, Erikka. Well, for those of you that don't know Erikka, she is a singer, songwriter, and award-winning voice actor. She's voiced commercials, narrations, political campaigns for top brands such as Google, Facebook, Microsoft, Apple, IBM, Discover, Black Lives Matter, and many more. She's also a product and project management professional with 15 years experience in various sectors, including state and federal government, contracting, e-commerce, software development, and automotive. Woo, Erikka, that's a list. Wow. You do an awful lot.
I forgot most of that. And thanks for the reminder.
And not only that, you just came back from an extensive learning experience extraordinaire at one of the JMC Euro retreats in Barcelona.
Yeah. That was awesome.
You're doing it all. It's kind of crazy. I think, how do you do it? How do you achieve a balance with all of that? Because it just seems like, you and I both, I run multiple brands, and it's something that we deal with, I think, on a daily basis. I think it would be a great topic for today's episode to talk about how we can achieve balance in our VO careers.
Absolutely.
Or lives, not just VO careers, right?
Right,
Take that back.
For sure. Like the whole life, because family too.
Right.
How about that?
That's right.
But key number one, the number one tool is coffee.
Oh my God. And I literally, before we came on, I filled my cup to the max. So yeah, I've got coffee. But don't forget, bosses also have that big old jug of water in your studio.
Absolutely.
Because I use that as a chaser so my vocal cords don't dry up. But yes,
you gotta
coffee.
do both for sure. Not too much coffee, just that 1 cup for me to get going in the morning. And if you want to lay off that, green tea is a good alternate.
Yeah, absolutely.
A little less caffeine.
Absolutely.
But yeah, prioritization is a huge piece of how I handle all that. I don't get to every audition I want to sometimes,
Well, yeah. I remember that being my biggest hindrance, I think, in progressing in my voiceover career back when I first started, because I had a very demanding tech job. And it pretty much took all hours of the daytime for me. It wasn't just 9 to 5. I mean, a lot of times I was even working overtime. And I don't know if that's true with you, but it was hard for me to get to those auditions on time.
Yeah, so thank goodness I don't really have the overtime thing. Being able to work full-time from home kind of helps with that balance. So I know a lot of different places are offering that now, or maybe even just, once or twice a week. So that helps a lot. But man, it is definitely a prioritization game, and to be able to accept and give yourself grace that you just can't do everything. So you do what's most important.
Well, I think one thing that has changed, since the pandemic, right? The fact that you can potentially work from home if that's a possibility, unless you work for Apple, right, at this point, because...
Right.
Yeah, that's not going to be a possibility, I don't think. But interestingly enough, our world has changed since the pandemic, with people working from home and lots of companies offering their employees the ability to at least work remotely a portion of the time, or even sometimes forever. I know my husband can now work from home forever, and I actually really love that. I love having him home. I think he loves not having to sit in the commute for how many hours, which... Actually, depending on how you use that time, I used to always listen to podcasts when I was sitting in traffic to try to make my time valuable in traffic. But yeah, it's so different now. So thankfully, if you work from home, you might be able to squeeze in an audition here or there.
Yeah, I think corporations have increasingly become more aware of the benefits of balance to the corporate business. So people understanding that if I don't have to spend 2 hours of my day in traffic, maybe I'm more refreshed. Maybe I'm willing to spend an extra hour at work getting that report done because I don't have to sit in traffic to do it. I can do a load of laundry or pick my kids up and come back and do a meeting. So I think that that's why a lot of them are increasingly okay with some remote work.
And also, there were some studies that were done that said that people were more productive at their home.
Absolutely.
And I think for us, as voice talent, because we primarily work from home anyways, if we're full-time, it makes all that much more difference to have that in-person kind of contact, which we get at conferences. But for the people who work full-time, such as yourself, and our voice actors, and successful ones, not even just, oh, you're just starting out. No, you're a very successful voice actor, not only finding time for auditions and work, but also escaping for a week or two to go to conferences and further your education. How are you working that with your job? I mean, is that something you have to beg for? Or I remember I was used to beg for time off.
Well, a couple things. I think that just honestly, from a personality perspective, I'm not one that needs to be in the office and get the human interaction. I am true textbook ambivert. I get my extrovert activities in and I'll run to my bubble and you won't even know it. Like, you'll be like, where'd Erikka go? Like, I needed to go recharge. So I don't necessarily need that touch. I get plenty just by doing live sessions and talking to people and the people in my home, and I'm good. But because a lot of my job is prioritization at work as a product owner, like I'm literally prioritizing work for my software developers, I just kind of make sure that I have everything done and ready to go if I know I'm going to be out. And thank goodness I work for a wonderful company that has a great, flexible, unlimited PTO policy. So as long as your manager approves it and, your work is done, they're like, go ahead and take your time off and take care of yourself. Because that know that rested employees or employees that are able to live their lives and not have it all be about work are more productive and produce better work.
Absolutely. And it really enables the creative aspect, I think, of the profession to really shine if you have that time, that downtime. And I have to say that I do like the companies that enable the unlimited PTO if you've got your work done. I know my husband has that same thing, and it's really, really made a difference. When I was working full-time, it was one of those professions where I couldn't really work from home. And so it really was kind of prohibitive for me to do voiceover during the day while I was at the job. But I think we have so many more opportunities these days, especially if you work in the tech sector, right?
Absolutely.
And you don't necessarily have to be out in the field fixing computers or anything. But if you work and you have remote capabilities and remote software capabilities, and, there's Zoom, thank God for Zoom, and all the technological capabilities that help us to at least simulate a meeting with another person and see their faces, which I think is great. But yeah, I think starting out now in VO and working a full-time job, I think is a little bit easier.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And like you said, there's more opportunities for remote work. It's, more accepted and not as taboo and seen as, oh, you're going to kind of, screw up at home and just not really do your work. That's not really the thought anymore. And even with voiceover has become increasingly remote. It's not so much that you have to go into the studio for every single session or even for auditions. It's been more accepted that there's a lot of technology available knowledge where people can actually have broadcast quality studios from home. So I think on both sides of it, it makes it easier now that technology has advanced.
And now let me ask you a question in regards to your, it's not even just a double life because you do so many things. I feel like it's a triple, quadruple, like whatever kind of a life. Now, do you tell your employer about the fact that you are a voiceover artist as well? And are you transparent with that, or how does that work for you?
I am so glad you asked that question because it was a little bit of a journey for me. So before I was really kind of doing voiceover to the magnitude I am now, it was more so music. And, I was writing at night and doing gigs on the weekends, and I was working for the government at the time. And, that just didn't really quite mix, and I wasn't really keeping it a secret, but I didn't broadcast it either. And the more I got uncomfortable with that because I felt like I was hiding a piece of myself, I started to talk about it more. And then when I got this new job in private sector, I was kind of really focused on corporate for a while, and then pandemic hit. And I started to say, you know what, this is me as a whole person. And I have a corporation that really values the whole person. And there are things that I learn in voiceover that help make me more creative at work. And it turns out I've actually done a couple of jobs for my company. Actually, they had a commercial that they ran here locally in Atlanta to try to get people to apply. There were a lot of employment campaigns happening. So I was able to use that experience of literally the script was, we have multitudes and, people do all these other things. The visuals were showing people doing all these other things outside of work. And I was like, that's me too. So I stopped hiding, and I actually have it on my LinkedIn. My headline is both of my titles.
I love that.
And I love it. And I know that it's not comfortable for everybody, and not all corporations are quite that there yet. But I encourage some people to consider that. There was someone I was talking to, and she's a doctor, and she had 2 separate profiles for her medical work and for her narration work. And I'm like, oh my goodness, do you know how much medical narration work you could get because you have the credibility of being a doctor?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
So I say combine them if you can.
Yeah. And be as transparent if you can. You know what's nice, I think, about voiceover is I feel like if there's a conflict of interest, there's not a high risk of that happening in your job because there's really nothing else like voiceover. And I feel like, unless, of course, maybe you're voicing a campaign for a competing company. That might be where some of the conflict of interest is. But in terms of actually having another career and being able to be transparent with your employer, I think that today it's even better than ever to have both, right? You can't have it all.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad you said that because that is one thing I did when I first got a job and they reached out to me, and it was actually my company as a whole separate media or creative agency, and they reached out to me for a job. They found me on 123. And I was like, whoa, I want to make sure this isn't a problem. And I did reach out to our ethics and legal department, and they cleared it. They said, this is fine.
Oh, that's
so
great.
I think that's a great point to make sure you're not doing conflicts of interest. You don't want to voice for, a competitor and be the voice of.
Well, exactly.
That's probably not a good idea. So there are some considerations, but like you said, for the most part, it's pretty safe.
Now, when you did your voiceover for your company, they did pay you, correct?
Yes,
separate?
They did.
Yeah.
They
okay,
did.
that's good.
Yep.
That's excellent. Now, was that something that you had to request? Because that's something I know a lot of people, well, like myself, and it was so long ago, it was just kind of like, oh yeah, you'll do those recordings for us, right? And it's part of your job. It's part of your standard job. And at the time, I don't think I was confident enough to really stand up and say, hey, this is something that I get paid for. I think I used it as kind of a learning and a stepping stone as here, because I hadn't really started working yet, but I wanted to, and I had been training. And so the timing for me was, this would be a good learning opportunity for me to voice some spots for the company. And no, they're not going to pay me, but that's okay because I'm on the job. They let me do it, and I'll consider this a learning on the job thing.
Yeah, I think that depends. So, in my case, it was okay because it was actually a creative agency. It wasn't the company itself, and they were hiring me. So it was fine for them to pay me, monetarily. But if a company that you're working for and they're coming to you directly to, voice a commercial that's going to put you in conflict and help sell something, I might not want to do that because if you're without extra compensation, because that takes you out of the running for other things.
Sure.
But if it's an e-learning or an explainer and it's not going to take a lot of, and you're on the clock anyway, and you do kind of need the practice, I think that can be great. It's not necessarily a bad thing if it doesn't put you in conflict. But I think that's sort of a case-by-case, see what feels right to you. I have heard of some people getting taken advantage, which I don't think is right.
Yeah, I agree there. Yeah, I think that also, if it isn't a conflict of interest, I think it is something that you're talking about. I think it's also something that if we've not thrown the topic of you are worth it enough around in the industry, let's do it again, right? You are worth getting paid. And I think that if you are transparent and your company finds that there's no real, conflict of interest, you should mention, if they ask you to do something for them, I think that you should absolutely stand up and say, yeah, absolutely. And will this be, for me, I was like, well, will there be an additional check for this, or will there be additional money being allocated for this job? Because I would be happy to provide you with a quote.
Yeah. And the thing is that comes into that is it's not just your time. And it's really easy to just say, oh, well, you're just talking into a microphone. But who bought that microphone? Who bought the interface?
Well, exactly.
Who bought the computer? Who paid for the training so that you knew how to do this in 30 minutes or whatever? So you have a business. You have a media business. You're not just talking into a microphone, and you've invested in that. So they need to pay for part of that. Absolutely.
So let me ask you a question. Now, how are you prioritizing hours in your day? Is it possible for you to actually say, oh, I have an hour here that I can do auditions, depending on the day, the schedule, the meetings? How do you organize your day with a full-time job and then working in full-time voiceover?
Yeah, so I have a lot of tools that I use, some new school, some old. I use things like Evernote and Task List, Google Tasks, and things like that. But I also, honestly, I'm really good about just paper and pencil. And I know that's old, and I'm like an elder millennial, and I still use it. But I do to-do lists, and I use a calendar on my phone.
Me too.
But it helps so...
love my calendar.
I love it. So it's like if I have auditions and I know that they're coming in, they're probably coming in from the West Coast later in the day, I might try to record them that night if I have the energy for it. And maybe I'll edit them in the morning before my work day so that I can hear it again and see if I need to make adjustments. So I'll try to do that. I really tried to get very efficient with my audition process. And
yeah, that's key.
That is key so that you're not spending 30 minutes on one audition. You don't have time for it.
Yes. So here's just a little diversion into that world.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, I've talked to so many people that have been in the business for years, and auditioning is kind of a skill. It's like a muscle. And I think the more that you do it, the better you get at it. And also, I think the more you realize that your first few takes are usually the ones that are the best. And it's not number 15 or 16 when you've rethought it or gone for a walk and come back and listened and said, oh God, no, it's horrible. Let me start again. Yeah. Really, to be efficient, that I think is key to keeping a balance, right? To your work lives, in multiple occupations. So don't spend an exorbitant amount of time on your auditions and I always limit myself to 3 takes. 3 takes done, send it and forget it.
Yep. And what I'll do too is it's a red flag to me if I've been on something for more than 10, maybe 15 minutes if it's a little longer. And I've recorded auditions and not sent them because I was like, you know what, this just doesn't even feel right. This one isn't for me.
I love that you said that because I have done that too. I always go by my gut instinct. And I feel that even if after the 3 takes I'm not feeling it, I'm not going to send it in because you're right. Again, we are storytellers and we have to be able to envision the scene. We have to be in the scene to be real, to be authentic. And it has to feel right, I think, in order to really, work.
Yeah, that's part of the balance. And I think a lot of times we know, even before we get in the booth. Like, I'll get that email and I'll get that gut, like, ooh, I can't wait to read this, And then you get the one where it's like,
Well, I think it's important to note, though, that when you read through it the first time, and just because you're efficient at auditioning doesn't mean that you're not reading through and doing a little bit of analysis in the beginning, because in order to know if you want to tell the story, you kind of have to know the story. So taking a look at that script and maybe doing a Google here and there for the company or the brand, if it's known, absolutely can help you. And it can speed up the process. Gosh, what did we do before the internet, right? When we got an audition and we wanted to find out more about the product, or I'd never heard about the product. And so, okay, I'm just going to read these words.
I bowed to the OGs that had to do that before me because I never had to, and I don't know what I would have done.
Just reading the words doesn't cut it these days. It never really cut it before either, I don't think. But it really has to be something that organically comes from you. And to get to that position and to understand the story, you've got to know a little bit about the story. And that takes more than a minute.
I'm so glad you said that. Efficient does not mean fast. They are not synonyms. It just means that you have a process down. Maybe you are speed reading. You're not necessarily like really digesting and sitting with it for 30 minutes. But you are getting an idea of what the story is, how you might connect with it. And then sometimes I do come in the booth and cold read because for me, it sometimes is more organic. As someone who is literally anxious, like I have anxiety and I get in my head, and sometimes the cold read ends up being the best one.
But a cold read doesn't always mean that you're not familiar with the words
the
either.
Story.
Because there's a certain method to speed reading.
Yes.
And actually, I just was reading about something called Bionic Reading the other day.
Yes, I read that too.
Yes, very interesting.
Very cool.
You get certain letters highlighted in the words because it says your brain
fills them in for you.
Yeah, your brain is faster than your eyes.
Yes.
So I honestly am looking for that app so that I can put all of my scripts into it, because I actually saw it and it worked for me, that I was able to process the words faster and comprehend them. That's the biggest thing I think we need is comprehension. And if you can do that faster and more efficient, that's going to, again, help you with the balance of managing everything that you have to do in any given day. So we've got your full-time job, right? Yeah. You've got your pretty much full-time voiceover, I would say.
Yep.
And then now what else are you struggling with? Or we've got life, actually, right? We've got to have that time, that downtime, so that, again, like we were talking about before, where we can refresh and reset.
Yeah, yeah. I have this mantra. When I was doing more so music, I had these t-shirts that was like natural born hustler, and that's still kind of my thing. I'm definitely have a strong work ethic. I love working. But as I've gotten older and had more things on my plate and been kind of forced into it, that has evolved into now that rest is part of the work.
Yeah.
That's my mantra.
You're right.
Now.
Yeah, rest is part of the work. I like that.
Because if you are not rested, you are not bringing your best self to that script. You are not bringing your best self to the booth, and you're not bringing your best self to yourself or your family.
Agreed.
You've got to recharge. You can't keep using your phone. It's going to die on you. You're no different.
I love that. And I'll tell you, I was that person back in the day. I remember. Now I'm like, I feel like here I am. I'm old. But I used to be able to survive on 4 or 5 hours of sleep a night. I can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
I need to rest and recharge, and my brain has to shut off. That I think is the most energetic part of me, is my brain all the time going. And that also kind of disrupts my sleep once in a while.
Well, yeah, I definitely have had issues with sleep. And the thing is that I had to learn that even being creative and balanced in all aspects of your life, even rest, it doesn't have to be the 8 hours of sleep at night. I'm not one that can do the 8 hours. Usually like a good night of rest for me is 7. But like I might catch a 15-minute power nap. I have a friend that lives by power naps, and he's right. Like there are sleep cycles, and you can research this. If you sleep in intervals of, I think it's like 15, 30, 45, or an hour and a half, like that can give you like a boost, literally.
Wow.
Where if you sleep, if an hour, like you interrupt a sleep cycle, and it's not as efficient if you have slept for 45 minutes, something like that. And if you get creative about how you're resting, even not sleeping, if there's a way to just rest your brain, like in silence, meditating, all those things count.
Can I just say, as I've gotten older, a woman of a certain age, my sleep patterns have changed, where all of a sudden I'm up in the middle of the night for an hour or two. And
Me too.
So first of all, I'm so thankful and grateful that I have voiceover, because I'm not paranoid about getting up, showered, dressed, and out the door and fighting the traffic. I don't feel that pressure. So if I'm up for an hour or two in the middle of the night, I don't stress about it. I just am like, okay, that's my sleep pattern. That's just the way it is. If I'm not sleepy, I'm gonna watch some TV until I fall asleep. And so for me, I'm not stressing about the fact that I'm not sleeping. And it's funny because my doctor, she's like, okay, so I know you're probably stressed out that you have an irregular sleep pattern. I'm like, actually, no, I'm really fine with it. Yeah. And hopefully it's the same with you, because you have to maybe report to work at a certain time. But if you have flex hours, I mean, that's just an amazing thing that we can just not have to stress about that lack of sleep during the middle of the night, or just different sleep patterns. One of my assistants, literally, she works during the night and sleeps during the day. So
yeah, you have to learn yourself. Like that's the key to balance too, is knowing what really works for you. Like I know me, even if I don't sleep well at night, I'm going to probably be up before 8 o'clock. My circadian rhythm just does not let me sleep late unless I am like really sick. If I'm in bed at 10 o'clock, you need to check on me.
Yep.
Something is wrong.
Same here.
So it's just about knowing, like if you're a night owl and you know that you're most creative and work well at night, then find work, whether that's voiceover or even corporate work, that's going to match that so that you can be your best self.
Now, do you have any other, when you want to come down and you want to just refresh your creative, do you have any particular things that you do? Do you meditate? Do you exercise?
Yeah, so I don't exercise as much as I used to, or as much as I want to or should.
Yeah, I know. I think we all go through that. Although I've come back to this point where I'm doing like little power bursts of exercise because I have to. Like we're talking like literally 5 minutes at a time. No, if I'm in between, let's say students are in between a gig, and I get out of my studio, I'm going to do like my little squats, my arm movements, going to grab a couple of weights, and I'm going to do like a power set for maybe 5 minutes. And I find that really helps me a lot during the day. I feel much stronger now because before I was just sitting on my butt and it was not doing me any good. For sure.
For me, I had this little sticky note I wrote for myself because I'm a sticky note-aholic, and I called it 60 Seconds of Sunshine. So if I have sessions and meetings and all this stuff going on, I can give myself 60 seconds of sunshine. It gives me the fresh air to reset. Yeah. Literally, the sun is vitamin D and all these things, and, it just kind of resets you. I would do that even when I was in the office. Like, I would just go outside for a minute. Even if I don't have time to really walk or do anything, just finding little bursts, little things that you can do throughout the day to reset your brain. It does help.
Yeah, I agree. That 60 seconds of sunshine. I like that. I think I'm going to put that on a sticky note on mine. That, and I love to just go and take a break and pet the fur babies.
Yes,
because that
my
just
goodness.
releases my stress unbelievably well.
Absolutely. They're because they don't care about anything. They just want love and food and sleep.
That's it. Love, food, and sleep.
Love, food, and sleep. Don't we all just want love, food, and sleep at the end of the day?
It's so true, really. And that love includes ourselves, right? And taking care of ourselves and trying to achieve that balance where I know myself, I have fallen into this. And anybody that knows me, again, I am a little bit of a workaholic. And it's really become so important with me because I will say I've encountered some health issues of late that have forced me to say, whoa, Anne, you are sitting too much, you're working too much, and you need to really stop and take a look at. Now, I think it's one thing about me, I've always been super uber focused. I mean, I play hard and I work hard. So I just got too many years during the pandemic of working way too hard and not necessarily playing. So I know myself, the balance has had to come back into play major, especially the older you get. I don't want to sound like an old broken record, but I'll tell you what, it's so much more important as you age. That's all I can say.
Who are you telling? Likewise, I told you, the natural born hustler, I still have some of those hats and shirts. People are wearing them like I love working. I got that from my dad.
Me too.
True workaholic.
Too. And my dad too.
However, like you said, especially as you get a little older and you start doing more things and your body's going to tell you to sit down and you don't do it voluntarily, it will do it for you. And I'd rather make the choice. So
Absolutely. So I think balance. So then if you had to sum it up, if we're working towards better balance in our lives with our careers and lives, what would be your recommendations?
Find something every day that gives you joy. Because I think joy is something that is a super fuel.
A super balancer.
Yeah. And if you have something, I mean, it could be something tiny. I mean, lately I've been more on like iced coffee. I don't know why. It's just been, maybe it's getting hotter. I'm usually like, I want hot all year long. But if the coffee is what gives you the joy in the first thing in the morning, it makes it so much easier to cope with all the other things throughout the day and give you that balanced perspective of, yes, maybe this thing is irritating me or hard right now, but I'm going to be able to have coffee again tomorrow or, whatever it is that brings you that sort of sense of balance in your life. Prioritization is another huge one. You can't do it all. And if you're workaholics like me and Ann and you want to do everything.
You think you can.
You think you can.
I found an app. Well, it's not even an app. You can go right online. It's called the Pomodoro Technique. So literally, I think it was developed, and I don't know the name of the guy. Maybe it was Richard Pomodoro. But anyways, his mother had one of those old timers that was shaped like a tomato. And so he was a writer, and he was struggling to keep his focus. And so he decided that he would set the timer and focus only on his writing for a set number of times. So it turns out that 25 minutes was key for him. You do whatever you need to do for 25 minutes, and then for 5 minutes, you take a break. And then you come back and you do it again. And you do 4 cycles of the 25 minutes focusing. And I'll tell you what, I started using it for my own writing because I write blogs. And I find I love to write, but my writing takes me forever. And I get very distracted. And I'm like, oh, I just got an email. Oops, just got a text. And so I literally, this simple thing, it's Pomodoro.app, I think. You go there and it's a big timer on a web page. You click on it to set it to 25 minutes and it does a little timer in your ear when it's all done. So I wear my headphones all day. And so it's literally click that 25 minutes and focus only on that one tab that I'm in or that application that I'm in. And it's really helped me, I have to say.
That is really a key to balance, too, because one of the red flags that you're out of balance is burnout. When you're feeling burned out. And if you kind of iterate that way for yourself and make sure that you're setting aside some time for rest, then you can prevent yourself from burning out. There's a physical exercise sort of thing that approaches it that way called Tabata training, where you work out for like 4. You work out for a few minutes and you have rest built into the routine. So that's awesome for your brain, too.
Absolutely. That's my husband did Tabatas in his spin class. So
it works.
Exactly. You give it your all for a few minutes and then you rest and go back and do it again. So Pomodoro Technique. Yeah, bosses, we all need more balance. And I'm just so excited, Erikka, to have you for this new series. Really, our theme is going to be about balance throughout your career. And we're going to be talking about all different things and how we can hopefully overall achieve balance and more success in life and in our careers. So
let's do it. Balance, baby.
Yeah. So bosses, I want you to have a chance to use your voice to make an immediate difference and give back to the communities that give to you. If you want to find out more, visit our newest sponsor, 100voiceswhocare.org. To find out more, you can make a huge difference for just a small quarterly contribution. And I'd like to give a huge shout out to our sponsor, IPDTL. You too can connect and network like a boss, like Erikka J and myself. Find out more at IPDTL.com. You guys have an amazing week, and we'll see you next week.
See ya.
Bye.
Join us next week for another edition of VO Boss with your host, Ann Ganguza. And take your business to the next level. Sign up for our mailing list at voboss.com and receive exclusive content, industry revolutionizing tips and strategies, and new ways to rock your business like a boss. Redistribution with permission, coast-to-coast connectivity via IPDTL.